with this wonderful group. And really, we've got quite a bit of time allocated here for anybody to ask questions about their safe system assessment, which they're currently doing, and get any clarification. If you've got questions on how to do things, how would you score this or the like, that's very much, we've got an opportunity for you to ask those questions in this session, or to, so you can put your hand up and ask them, or you can write it into the chat, and I'll definitely talk through any of that anybody wants to. We also have some time allocated for you to really get stuck into that final assignment. So we will finish a little bit early, depends how much discussion we have, but that will give you a bit of time to finish off any outstanding quizzes or assignments and really get stuck into that final one, because we want you to keep moving things along. We know you're busy, but yeah, but I do have some final sort of content I want to cover, which is more around the policies, the way jurisdictions were operating with safe system assessments, and the process of undertaking a safe system assessment within an infrastructure project, or any sort of decisions or policy decisions around public infrastructure or operation of the road network. So policy guidance, process guidance is what we're going to be delving into today. As we know, we're recording the session. So the end of this module, it's about being able to understand the benefits of safe system assessments, follow the process of a safe system assessment within an infrastructure project, and the difference between safe system assessments and road safety audits, which is often quite a source of confusion. I've mentioned that in other modules about what the overlap is and that they're different things. I'll delve into that in a bit more detail and show you how they complement each other really well throughout an infrastructure project. And of course, happy to answer your questions. I'll cover off what some of the jurisdictions are doing with safe system assessments in terms of Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, and New Zealand. They're the ones I'll cover. But if people have questions about other things, I'm happy to delve into it. Now, I want to start by talking about an evaluation that was done on safe system assessments. So it's always a good thing to get some evaluation, understand whether this is a worthwhile thing that we do. And this is one of the outputs of the independent evaluation. And it was an evaluation of 35 big infrastructure projects that were subject to safe system assessments. And it was probably about 4 years ago or something that those assessments were done. The researchers used, or the evaluators used, a prediction model, a crash prediction model over the 20-year period to try to understand what crashes would occur in these areas with no project, with the original design, with the design after the safe system assessment had been done. So we're talking here about 35 projects that are really big, massive outer suburban duplications, town bypasses, big freeway upgrades, and that sort of scale of project. And on the axis here, we have fatal and serious injury crashes that are predicted over the next 20 years. The first one we have here is no project. So that's to say, let's look at each of the areas here and try to understand how many crashes are we expecting to occur? How many fatal and how many serious injuries are we expecting to see in these areas if no upgrades are done? So for example, if there was a town bypass being proposed and designed, and they say, well, actually, no, you're not going to build the town bypass. All the traffic's going to continue to go through the town. What benefit what number of crashes are we predicting over those 20 years, and added all of that up. And in these 35 projects, they saw nearly 8,000 serious injuries and 344 fatalities. So then the designs came in, and these designs were at a sort of reference level. So a bit more than concepts, but not quite into your full functional design. But there's a good bit of meat on these. And I think of the 35, it was like 32 or 33 had been subject to a feasibility stage road safety audit. And you can see these designs, so upgrading the road dropped the number of serious injuries to 6,700, dropped the number of fatals to 286 in these areas in the next 20 years. So then safe system assessments were done on all of these reference designs, made recommendations on different things that could be done to improve the design to get better alignment with safe system principles. And the people doing this evaluation took, the highest ones that they could, the most effective ones that they could. They didn't double up, but they made some assumptions around that, and it dropped to 3,890 serious injuries and 167 if they were able to and did implement all of those recommendations. But then they looked at, well, what was actually adopted by the project teams and went forward for detailed design and construction. And you see it goes back up a bit, and it went back up to 5,298 serious injuries, 227 fatalities. Okay, so this tells me quite a story, and I'll just walk you through that. And I'd be interested if anybody else has any thoughts on this. The first thing it says to me is that the designs that we get that are coming out of the big design houses, and really, following our standards and guidelines in general, they improve road safety. That's that difference there. They improve road safety. We can't say that these designs are not improving road safety. Some aspects of some of them, maybe not, but in general, that's we were making improvements. The difference here is sort of what we can potentially get. So this is some pretty big numbers that we can reduce in terms of just these areas in fatal serious injury crashes in the future. The difference between this one and this one is interesting. I mean, that is quite a complex, thing to work out, but that's essentially a whole lot of things that were suggested by the Safe System Assessor that for one reason or another, the project team has rejected or said, okay, well, we can't do that because of these reasons. And it could be they don't believe they have the funds. They could be don't believe they have the community will react badly to it politically, or maybe that's just something that they say, well, we don't do it that way, or whatever it is. But the difference between that and that is our immediate benefit of a safe system assessment. That is literally just going through this process, scoring things, looking at them from the safe system lens, providing those recommendations, and the project team adopting the ones that they believe they can, and we get that benefit, that reduction in death and serious injury under this prediction model. So that's pretty exciting. Now, they didn't put a dollar figure to this. Okay, we don't know what the cost increase of that was, but there were examples of projects which actually cost less to get better alignment with safe system principles, which was quite interesting. So, but there were something. Obviously, there's some additional costs, but in the scheme of most of these projects, it was so small. So that's really interesting, isn't it? That, it shows the amazing benefit we can gain by just adding this process, even above and beyond road safety audits, or, instead of road safety audits, maybe at these early stages. One of the really interesting insights to me, I mean, the first thing is that this is naturally going to come down. The act of having your project safe system assessed as a designer will mean that your next design will be better in terms of alignment with safe system principles. You get that feedback. You see this and you go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Or maybe I should try that for the next one. And I'm going to get a safe system assessment done on this. I know what they're going to want. So they're going to get better and better. It's actually a wonderful education tool from that perspective. Road safety audits have been doing that for forever. I mean, they're a great education device as well. This is really interesting though, isn't it? We just talked about our aspiration of zero death and serious injury. And safe system assessments being this wonderful tool, which is going to help us get there. Except for these have had safe system assessment. And these are the highest alignment things that the safe system assessors are recommending. Yet we still see there 3,890 serious injuries and 167 fatalities over the next 20 years. Now, in one sense, this sort of shows that the evaluation was a fairly realistic, fairly realistic model. And if you look at what are in these crashes, we sort of call this the residual. Like these are things like motorcyclists, and it's very hard with the infrastructure and the any behavioural change initiatives or anything like that to reduce and eliminate that trauma. Some very high-end speeding crashes, we talked about those, really high-end inappropriate stuff. So they're big chunks of this trauma. And yeah, so that's interesting. So it says to me, well, we need to innovate in these areas. We need other elements of the system to kick in, not just the infrastructure and the speed. We need the vehicles and we need the people and we need further movement in that space. And we need to innovate within the infrastructure and speed to try to attack some of these and really try to bring that down as well. We can bring this one down through some cultural change initiatives and trying to lobby for more funding and better community support and those sort of things. So hopefully we'll see all of this come into play better. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And I do that just to show that this is a really valuable exercise. This is a valuable exercise to go through. There's some actual independent evaluation reports that show that. And we want to start integrating it heavily into our infrastructure design planning process. And I've not pointed here some benefits. I want you to be going out there and doing safe system assessments and encouraging your clients or your colleagues to be doing safe system assessments, and you can be the one to help them and do that because the more of these we can do, the better. We'll see more progress in our attempts to really turn around the death and serious injury happening on our road network. So a few more things to arm yourself with in terms of benefits of safe system assessment. It's a great way of determining how well a project or proposal aligns with safe system principles. And that is something that we've craved for a long time as industry, because people were shouting around about safe system. Oh, we're committed to the safe system. We've got to do safe system. And people are like, well, what does that actually mean on the ground? Like, how do I actually do that? This is a good way to do that. Great way to compare project design options. So you're at the moment in the middle of doing a safe system assessment on just one design option. But if you had three, it'd be a really nice way to score them and to see that difference. A good way to inform design changes that'll move a project closer to the objectives of eliminating death and serious injury. Good method for assisting planners, designers, project managers to move the safe system approach from theory to practice. And that's what I talked about in the first dot point there. Sound basis for future planning design of infrastructure. So really beneficial stuff. But let's talk about the process. Like, okay, you know now how to do a safe system assessment, and you're going to prove to us you understand how to do one and how to fill the things out and the like. But in terms of the context of a process within an organization, road authority or the like, when should we be doing this? So if we take the steps of development of a project and we say concept, draft, details, build, and open it to traffic, and by traffic there, I don't just mean cars, I mean, pedestrian cyclists as well. So safe system assessments give the best value at these early stages. And then road safety audits are really well suited after we've got some detail there. The reason for that is, well, there's a few reasons for that, but one big one is often here you're dealing with multiple ideas on how this can be achieved. So you have options on the table, and this helps you rank options. Road safety audits don't rank options. The next one is that a safe system assessment has this, well, we're looking for safe system assessments and a safe system assessors to really push a project team to strive for higher safe system alignment, to really get it better from a safety perspective. A road safety audit's really about managing any risks within that project, that you're not creating new risks as a result of building this. It's less about looking for opportunity to get better safety benefit. So let's take a set of traffic signals. I mean, the audit traditionally and kind of still happens is looking at all those things to ensure that sight lines are good, line marking's good, drainage is good, that, the lighting will be appropriate and all of that sort of stuff. We've got the right lane storage, taper lengths. It's sort of not asking fundamental questions as whether signals were the right are the right option there, or should there be major modifications to those signals to reduce speed and the like, which is what the safe system assessment is better at doing. And if you're doing that when you've got a 400-page detailed design, they're just going to ignore it. If you're fundamentally trying to alter the scope of the project, it's locked in. They got their funding, they got the go ahead, and now it's just a matter of rolling it out, ensuring it's rolled out in the safest possible manner. That's where road safety audits provide that better process. In terms of those differences, both a road safety audit and a safe system assessment do a good job there of identifying the likelihood of crashes. The severity of crashes is generally better done in safe system assessments because of the way it's scored and thought about and segmented up. I say sometimes for road safety audits, and that the way that the 2022 Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6 is now framed, it should be better. Identifies issues that impact exposure. Well, that's pretty rarely done, if ever, in a road safety audit, but it's its own entity within a safe system assessment. Recommendations that improve road safety outcomes. Well, they both do that. We can't say they don't. Considers all road users. Yep, they're both able to do that. Focuses on fatal and serious injuries only. Well, that's the aim of the safe system assessment, whereas a road safety audit will also look into other injury and minor bingles. Kind of in practice, safe system assessments do that a bit as well, but in theory, they're just focused on the fatal and serious injury. Looks into safer vehicles, people, maintenance impacts, post-crash care. If that's part of the scope of the safe system assessment, it's all set up to be done with those qualitative questions we went through yesterday. Makes recommendations to redesign the project if required. Whereas audit's really not about redesigning the project, but highlighting risks and pointing these things out. And encourages innovation. I talked about this in module 1. where an audit is there to pick up risks and does not report on the good stuff. That's not the audit team's role. They simply point out the risks. So if you're doing something innovative, it will just come back with lots and lots of risks if you do a road safety audit. Whereas if you do a safe system assessment, you'll get a nice picture of the advantages of the project from a road safety perspective, and you'll get some things that could be tweaked and improved. So if people have innovative projects, I always really encourage them to, we'll do a safe system assessment on it, get looked at from those first principles, get some scores, show it the benefit, and then work through the tweaking of the final designs with road safety audits. Safe system assessments are very scalable. You can do program level, you can do community level, you can do, a mine site, a factory, whatever you want. Well, a factory, I mean, the transport aspects of a factory, I suppose. So we'll run through sort of like then after a safe system assessment has been, somebody said, yep, we're going to do a safe system assessment on this project, how that process sort of plays out. We will have our little break at some point. Kathy, you're going to have to, oh no, I've got my watch on. I can work out when a good time for that is. But let's have a look at this process. So I haven't yet introduced you to the fact that there's two types of safe system assessments. There's a full safe system assessment and a rapid safe system assessment. If you're in Queensland, you call the rapid a light safe system assessment, but it's all pretty much the same. I will, in one of the slides coming up, show you the difference between those two. They're not like, one takes an hour and the other takes 10 days. They're fairly close to each other. But one does have some efficiencies in it. But the client is going to, decide that. And I say client, it could be the road authority, it could be the project manager, it could be the project sponsor, whatever it is, they're going to make that decision. And then they're going to go out and seek a safe system assessment team. And so the client, the designer, whoever's going to do that is going to find either a consultancy or people from another department or whatever it is, and get them and engage them to undertake this safe system assessment. And there'll be some sort of commencement meeting, some sort of thing where people get in the room or on Zoom or Teams or whatever it is and discuss the project. And this is where they're trying to really understand the context of the project, ensure that all the information's been passed across, find out things that are needed in order to get a really good understanding of the assessment and make sure it's a rigorous assessment. That's all happens there, and everybody's kind of involved in that. Then it's really over to the safe system assessment team, and they'll get out and they'll look at the site with the plans and review things and predict crashes in the future and look at how it currently operates and what the pedestrian desire lines are, and a lot of thinking like a road safety auditor would do, but starting to more systematically work through those columns of the matrix, so the different crash types that could occur and the exposure to it and the likelihood and the severity of it, and making notes and thinking this all through for the existing conditions, then for all of the design options. And that's all popped into the safe system assessment matrix, and you're getting quite hopefully good with that, and you've used it, or you're going to use it very shortly. They're the other elements of the safe system are considered, utilizing those qualitative questions that I went through at the end of last module, where we ask questions about the post-crash care and what happens in the event of a crash, how do people get there, are there going to be challenges, and all of those questions, and sort of just dot point out thoughts and ideas and things that could could be of interest to the project manager and designer. Then you make these comments on any treatments that could be implemented within that design that would improve safe system alignment. So things that they could add, things they could alter, changes that could happen. And you do that for every single design that they've produced, every option. So if they give you an option for signals and an option for a roundabout and an option for a seagull and an option for a passively controlled intersection, each one of those you would talk to how can that be improved to get better safe system alignment. And then you've got all of that and you document that in your safe system assessment report. And I pointed you at the Victorian government's template, and that's what you're using. You're welcome to use that yourself, rebrand it. They are very clear on their website to say, please use this, just let's all follow the same report format. And if you do that, you're going to cover off all the sections required and it guides you through quite nicely. And there's one for a full safe system assessment, one for a rapid safe system assessment. Queensland does have their own. They've hidden it in the Safer Roads team's file in TMR. So you have to ask them if you're in Queensland and you want to use that. They don't seem to mind if you use the Victorian template. They're very similar, but every other jurisdiction's generally following the South Australian and Victorian sort of template. So it's become pretty much the national. Then you respond. So, sorry, let's hand it over this report. And the client, the designer, whoever's received this, they respond. Now, they don't necessarily respond to the Safe System Assessment team, but they sort of say, yes, we can do this idea, or we'll change this and we'll alter this. And yep, okay, we've decided to take on that idea you had. And that then is implemented into the design. So that's the process. And some of you are probably looking at that and going, yeah, I'm okay with that process because it looks like exactly sort of how a road safety audit process should work. And you're right. And this was modeled on that to be that consistent sort of process that we're fairly comfortable with it in the infrastructure, public infrastructure around road space and safety assurance around that. Within a safe system assessment, you can, at this stage, or either at the, it's probably in here actually. Oh, where's my pen gone? In here, it can sometimes come down and then get rescored. So if you've got so as a client you've been given or as a designer you've been given these ideas, or as a project manager, and you say, okay, well, we'll do that one, we can't do these three, we'll do that one, and we'll do that other one, and you say you can go back then to the Safe System Assessment team and say, can you give us another score on that, please, with these new incorporations? And that to me actually is a really wonderful thing for presentation of your project up the line to your directors and your different committees, approval committees and the like. The reason why is you can sort of provide this, here's the existing conditions, here's the design that we produced, and here's what we've got to after the safe system assessment. So you show that benefit and you say, well, we've really worked hard to get us as high alignment with safe system principles as we possibly can. And there's proof of that using, taking on this advice and trying to incorporate it in. So the Victorian government, as I mentioned, they have the Safe System Engineering page, and you can see within that, we've got the guidelines, we've got the templates, and you can download those yourself. So that's really useful. And within this, there's also the Register of Recommended Safe System Assessors. And so Victoria and South Australia publish a list of, well, Victoria calls them the Recommended Safe System Assessors. South Australia calls them Pre-Qualified Safe System Assessors. And how do you become on this or get onto this list or the like? Well, the information is here and it says, you know, show an interest in it, but then come to this course. And so you're doing this course now and you'll complete that successfully soon. Then you have to go out and do a real safe system assessment. Okay, you have to somehow find one or join up with a team and lead a safe system assessment. It has to be a proper one where you do those workshops, you know, at the start to gain the context, to get all of that understanding. Then you submit that and you submit the report through and they actually review it. And if they believe that you have done a good job of it, they will put you on the list. If not, they'll give it back and they'll make comments on how that could be improved. So it's been up and running for a while now. We're starting to get a good few people on this list, and you can see they sort of this is an old snip of it there, but you get some contact information. It goes down. I think there's about 50 or 60 people now on this list, which is wonderful, and that's, you know, what we want to see, the list growing. Lots of people getting in there and doing that. To get on the South Australian list of pre-qualified safe system assessors is a little bit easier, and they just say if you've done the course, and our course is the course they're referring to, so you're there, you know, you've done this, and you've got a certificate of successful completion, we will add you to the list. So you're able to take the certificate. They know what we do in terms of just assurance of competency, and they will accept that and then let you or add you to their list of pre-qualified safe system assessors. So that's how you can get onto those registers for Queensland. There is nothing. You know, they occasionally and ah about adding it to the TMR website where they list the road safety auditors and whether or not they added extra tick or something next to ones that are safe system assessors. Nothing in New South Wales either, or in New Zealand. So Queensland has a road safety policy, or the Queensland government does, and TMR uses this policy. It's their organisational policy. But interestingly, in this, it says all projects must be subject to a safe system assessment, which is yeah, pretty progressive, and it shows the commitment there, and it shows the need for the safe system assessment framework to be utilised. So that's pretty exciting, and they're certainly doing a lot of safe system assessments now, so that's good. In Victoria, there's a bit more, I suppose, of a refined approach to it rather than that blanket everything. So Vic Roads or Department of Transport corporate requirements now, still in their documentation, says for a project less than $2 million, a rapid safe system assessment should be done where it's determined that a formal safe system assessment is required. Between 2 million and 5 million, and this is sort of TEC, total estimated cost of the infrastructure. A full safe system assessment should be done on any complex projects or projects with significant risk, which they'll always talk about as high-speed projects, high-speed roads, or anything innovative. A rapid can be done for lower risk projects or any sort of repeat assessments that might be occurring. And that's kind of when I drew that feedback loop in the diagram. Anything above 5 million, they say, well, a full safe system assessment to be done on any project above $5 million. And only you can do a rapid when a full has already been done and it's just this repeat assessment. So I think that's an interesting sort of approach, and is a way of trying to, target these at best bang for buck. But the other interesting thing that the Victorian government has said is that if you do a safe system assessment of a stage of a project, say a $5 million project, and you've got all these stages, if you do a safe system assessment at an early stage, you don't need to do a road safety audit at that stage. So the policy now says safe system assessment overrides the need for a road safety audit at these early stages, because you usually do a feasibility and then preliminary design, detailed design audit during construction, pre-opening, post-opening road safety audits. We pause there and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, Ken, what will the engineering, the Registered Professional Engineers Victoria, will that affect being added to the list?
No, it won't affect that. There is no requirement to be an engineer to be on the list of recommended safe system assessors or pre-qualified safe system assessors in South Australia. The engineering registration bill and the like is simply, taking, I don't know what. Anyway, it's trying to provide some sort of assurance that engineers are active, practicing, keeping their skills up and the like, and competent in what they're signing off. But no, it's got no connection whatsoever. Good question though. I don't know. I toy around with whether it's a good or a bad thing. I'm slightly off topic here. Queensland has had the registration for a long time, and there's a little bit of reluctancy in Queensland. This is my opinion. I haven't done a structured study on this, but to innovate or to alter, to deviate from documented standards and guidelines with road infrastructure, due to the fact that they feel they're taking personal responsibility or accountability if they do that, and that's all due to this engineering registration. And so I think that's a bit of a downside, because we can't progress if we just follow standards and guidelines. And in fact, I very much argue if you're an engineer and all you do is follow standards and guidelines, you're actually not an engineer. You're a drafts person, and that's very really wonderful thing to do. But our job as engineers is to identify and understand where the standards and guidelines have come from and apply them in appropriate situations, and deviate and alter and in the context of what the scenario is or where there's deficiencies. So if we can instill that as part of engineering registration, I think we're into a winner. And I often do dust off my engineering registration from Queensland or my Victorian one now, and sort of highlight some of these sections that talk about preservation of human life and health and the like, and say, well, we're obligated, if we know something can be done that is not to standard, that is safer, we are obligated to do that based on the framework that we've signed up for. Okay, just being able to say, well, the standards were that's what the standard says. That's what I did. If it can be shown that you have knowledge that you can do things safer by not following that, you are obligated to do that. So I don't know, safe system assessments may help in feeding information into some of that decision making. the signing off of plans and designs is going to become an interesting sort of scenario. Yeah, I mean, we sign off a lot of plans because registered, but is that really transferring risk to us off a road authority? I don't think so, but certainly we're putting in place diligent practices to check it. But anyway, let's see how it plays out. Exciting times. Full safe system assessment versus rapid. I talked about there is this difference, and I suppose the easiest way to do this is to just note as I read through the full ones, which ones don't need to be done necessarily in a rapid. So commencement meeting, you might elect not to do that if in a rapid, if there is sufficient information provided and you got a good feel for the context of the project, it may not be required. You're going to need to get that background context and information anyway. The workshop, I mean, it's even optional in the full safe system assessment, and that's more even beyond just getting a feel for the project. It's really starting to do the assessment with the design team and there to give you their thoughts on bits and pieces. Site inspections, another one that can drop off in a rapid safe system assessment. Sometimes even within rapid, it's good to get out there and see it. I think it's always valuable to do that, but technically that's what it says. You can drop that off if you need. You still assess, you still do all of the existing conditions and design options in the matrix. You don't consider the other elements of the safe system. You don't do the qualitative questions and work through all of that in a rapid. Design changes, you do that. You write a rapid report, which is slightly more refined. It's still mainly the same stuff. There's still that need for us to consider the changes that are recommended by the safe system assessment team. So that's still in there, and get another scoring done if you want, and amend the project. So maybe 70% of the work, 70% of the work here, maybe, but it's still a fair bit of work to do. So I'll pause there to take any questions from the group associated with the process of doing safe system assessments, what different jurisdictions are doing, that idea of getting pre-qualified or on that list of recommended safe system assessors. See if anybody's got any questions on that, and then I'll give 5 minutes, and we can fill up our afternoon coffees and have a stretch, and then I'll do a short, maybe 20 minutes of discussion about some general safe system road environments. And then I'll give Kathy an opportunity to just show you in the learning management system how to finish off the course. So doesn't look like anybody's typing anything in at this stage, but we'll give you 5 minutes now for a break. And if you do think of something, pop it into the chat as we go, or of course, pop your hand up. So let's take 5 minutes, Kathy, and we'll see. Doesn't look like there's any further questions that have come in. So I might flick through a few safe system road environments, or a few different road environments, and talk about what will influence safe system alignment, how we can get good safe system alignment. The reason I want to do this at the end here is that you are doing a safe system assessment on a particular road environment. And it could be a local road intersection, or it could be an arterial road intersection, or like. But when you finish this course and you're out there, you might get asked to do safe system assessments on any road environment. It could be a motorway, it could be a local area traffic management scheme, it could be a new cycleway. Yeah, it could be really anything. The principles and the process just apply absolutely the same as the way you're doing it for this one. But the way you might make recommendations and ways that you could visualize the environment will certainly be different based on the road context. So I thought we'd just go through a few of those. I'm not going to spend long on any of them. Just throw in a few ideas, get you to give me a few ideas, give out a few prizes maybe, and then we'll finish it off, and we'll get you time to really delve in and get started on that safe system assessment. So I want to cover off residential style environments, shopping strips, mixed use arterials, low volume and high volume rural roads, high volume outer suburban arterial type roads, major urban freeways, and major rural highways. So if we start on these residential street environments, and I think I will get you to type a few things in. It's been a fair bit of me talking this session. What type of things would you like to see in this road environment that will get higher alignment with safe system principles? And just for fun, let's put exposure, likelihood, or severity next to any ideas that you pop in there. And so this is a 50 kilometre per hour residential street. It opens onto a larger collector road down the end here. Yeah, you can see it there. Just pop in the chat any ideas you might have to get better alignment with safe system principles, so reduce the risk. And is that going to be exposure, likelihood, or severity? I'll give it a minute here, see if we get.
Also just wanted to jump in and say, if you have got a question you want to ask it anonymously, you can do that through the Q&A function. So feel free to do that if you've got any questions about your assessment or anything at all. Yeah,
great. And of course, as some of you have already done, you're welcome to reach out of the session and either shoot an email with questions or ask for a meeting time with one of our experienced safe system assessors to ask those questions to get some coaching and assistance. Looks like Mark's getting a prize, Kathy, for this one. He's
Mark's getting all the prizes.
Yeah, he's popping in some really good thoughts there around keeping, trying to get speeds down, and that we have the exposure there with the vulnerable road users. And the severity is high there. So exposure associated with the driveways, yeah, to a degree. I tend to put that in the other crash category. So when you're doing a safe system assessment, you've got your columns, you've got other, that's where I put driveways. Most people seem to be following suit and call that an other crash. And then the exposure, you sort of do the same as you do with an intersection in adding up the volume of traffic on the main road and the volume of traffic coming out of the driveways. So it ends up pretty much always being the same as your main road volume, or the road volume is the exposure to that other crash associated with driveways when you're doing the mechanics of that safe system assessment. Yeah, so really we can acknowledge back to those movement and place principles that we're going low speed in these environments, and because there's not a big movement function. I think exposure could be looked at by blocking off this road. Do we need to have all this access, all this permeability? And Tyson's popped in there about reversing in and out of driveways. I think that's a good point. That adds to potentially the likelihood of crashes there, and we could have a think about how to address that. It becomes very hard, but certainly these low speed, if you can make low speed environments, you can potentially even utilize some of the road space for other purposes. Thinking about local area traffic management. So just reducing the speed limit is one thing, but adding local area traffic management to physically slow people down is really wonderful as well. And just trying to make it not these routes, these cut through rat run style routes. Okay. Let's have a talk about this one. I'll give a prize to the person who can tell me where this is. I'm sure some of you have been there. First person to pop that into the chat. And we see here well, back in the time, I think it was even a 50 km/h speed limit. Karen's got the prize. We'll take that. Bondi. It's Bondi Junction. So Karen have a prize there. So we've got the big shopping centre and the station in there. It's the entry there. And I suppose, again, what sort of things are we thinking could be done in this environment to get us better safe system alignment? I mean, movement and place, we're certainly seeing this as a place. This is definitely sits within the place. Yeah, so, okay, we've got raised intersections. So good, we're getting that local area traffic management style thinking, lower speed limits, potentially pedestrian crossings. So these are good. Restricting vehicle access, that's a wonderful one. That's where we're sort of talking about exposure to crashes. It's really the first thing you'd want to look at. Why have we got this in this such a place for people that we have this vehicle access? Is it required? Are there other alternatives? Could we limit which vehicles are coming in there? And then can we slow them down? Can we have physical treatments to slow them down? Do we have particular crossing points? If you did, you'd have lots of crossing points, or you look to really slow it down, make it shared zone type area. Certainly, I don't like any ideas that involve pedestrian fencing. That, to me, in this environment is a big sort of no-no, because it will just end up being that people will sort of walk along the road. So slowing the vehicles down, having that permeability and access, I think, is an important one for these environments. Mixed-use arterials are generally incredibly challenging. They're incredibly challenging because they often sit in that high movement requirement, high place value, and then when you look at sort of a road use hierarchy where you're trying to say which modes are our most important, it ends up sort of everything's important. So traffic movement is important, pedestrians important, public transport, bike, it's a bike route as well. And yes, oh my God, everything. So it's a huge challenge. And we did this with those artistic images in module 3 and looking at those changes, and those really apply quite nicely here. And I feel we can sort of create these ways to break up the long, straight, fast run that can be taken. And these sort of things, including raising these pedestrian crossing points. I think that and raising some intersections. You're not heavily impacting traffic movement through there at all, but you are getting so much enhancement for pedestrian safety, for vehicle safety actually as well, for cyclist safety. And it's just a really wonderful thing to do. If you're worried about the bus route, maybe you don't need to raise that part of it as well. It's just, the bus might have a free run through there without going over anything, but it can be raised in the middle there. We can start to redesign and rethink this to slow down. And that's going to reduce the likelihood and severity of crashes and do a really sort of good job of that. Another treatment I like in these sort of areas is to utilize your existing signal infrastructure and look at the possibility of things like hold the red, well, not hold the red, there's a different one, dwell on red or rest on red, which is where at night, maybe on a Thursday night from 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock till 4 in the morning, and Friday night and Saturday night all the same, instead of the traffic signals defaulting to green for the passenger vehicles, for the vehicles on the road, it defaults to red, okay, and slows everybody down and makes it not a good run. So it's not a, and slows everybody all the way through this point. It's easier for pedestrians to cross. And as a vehicle pulls up, then it goes to green, but then goes quickly back to red. So at those times of day, that traffic moving and pumping traffic through as absolutely fast as possible is not our priority. And we're going to have lots of intoxicated pedestrians stumbling out onto the road and doing all sorts of things, and drug affected pedestrians out there. Okay, we need to say, well, stop just blaming and say, what can we change about the system? There's an idea. Separated bike lanes, separated, refuge facilities, but getting those speeds down, incredibly important. Underground the traffic lanes and pedestrianize the existing road area. Wow, that's sort of like the ultimate, isn't it? That would get so high alignment with safe system principles. And I think, the areas where we have seen the jurisdiction spend the money on that, we get some wonderfully safe outcomes. Very expensive, obviously, but in theory, eliminated exposure to crashes of that pedestrian cyclist bit, and you can work then on safe system assessment of the tunnel you create. Yeah, so reducing the amount of lanes for vehicles and utilising that space for protected areas for vulnerable road users, for cyclists, I think is very good. Again, that comes to your battle of what is the use of the road, what is the hierarchy, why are we doing things, but I think that's a really good one there from John. So prize for John, prize for Tyson for his idea there, and then a few others, really good ones in there. Anthony can have a prize too. Thought he got in there with some pedestrian crossings ideas for that other one. So Kathy, hope your prize giving your prize spreadsheets up and running. Low volume rural roads are going to be a huge challenge for us. Across the country, we have just hundreds of thousands of kilometres of this type of network and lesser standard. And they're 100 kilometre per hour default speed limit, and there's not many vehicles on them. So at a collective risk level, there's not this, huge risk, but spread that out across all of the roads, it adds up. So it becomes really hard for us to understand how to treat these, because you're not going to invest the infrastructure in these to make them able to operate at 100 kilometres an hour in a highly aligned safe system environment. Because that would involve barriers down the middle, barriers on the outside, roundabouts at the major intersections, and the like. And it's not the place to invest that kind of money. So what do we do with them? Well, in these types of road environments, we're really going to, look at how can we reduce the likelihood of crashes as much as we possibly can. And I'm seeing some great ideas immediately coming in there, and they are aligned with this reduction in the likelihood of crashes. So sealed shoulders from Stuart's a really good one. So it's the other Stuart, I think. Surprise there. Tim saying wide centerline treatments as likelihood, absolutely a good idea, reducing the likelihood of crashes. Surprise there for Tim, and along those same lines, Stuart saying audio tactile. So lower speed limits, Mark's been sort of put that out there, and I think that is where we have to start to move. And it's going to be probably a long and thoughtful journey as to how we get there. And it needs to be a strategically thought through journey, but these roads really should be at a lower speed. It should be encouraged to use the higher order roads that have the infrastructure there. You shouldn't have to be driving on the main arterial at 80, but you go the back road and it's 100. I mean, we got that sort of mixed up really there. When we get in those scenarios, we should be discouraging through speed. And I mean, I'm a sort of advocate of having a bit of dialogue with the community around this and saying, well, listen, we're going to reduce speeds on these roads, and we're going to ensure that we keep the speed high on the highway by doing the investment in infrastructure there, and that's how we do it. Yeah. So Mark's pointing out New Zealand's new speed management guidelines and policy, and it is pretty advanced, forward-thinking stuff from them. And they've got an interesting way of going about it, but the theory is wonderful. How we get that through to the community and get acceptance and the like is still a bit of a challenge, I think, and we're still moving and trying to work out ways to do that. But the things that people have sort of said in there with basic right turn lanes, overtaking lanes, staggered intersections and the like, all reducing the likelihood of crashes. Some isolated barrier sections at high risk spots is good. And I think enforcement is possible. I think we'll see enforcement technology that gets us to be able to enforce these areas with point-to-point, mobile point-to-point speed camera, or utilizing existing data that the vehicles are producing themselves, and we'll be able to start to be more influential in that space. This is going to be one of our biggest challenges. The reduction in speed associated with urban areas has this amazing luxury of coattailing on livability, active transport, health and well-being, and you know, it's a better place to live in. It's a safer place for your kids and everything like that. And so I think there's far more willingness for speed limit reduction in urban areas overall. These ones, the community will push back, and it's very hard for any other people to lobby for lower speed limits here apart from us road safety people. Occasionally the wildlife people join us on that crusade. I don't have answers. I don't have great answers for this. I like ideas. I think innovation. I think we need to engage with the advertising community. We need to say, well, we want to reduce the speed on this. You know, we want 80 kilometers per hour on these types of roads or lower. And then we need to give that to the advertising campaign geniuses that manage to sell things like cigarettes and bottled water and stuff like that, and say, hey, come on, give us some of that magic and make the community understand a bit more of this. So anyway, we'll keep battling on. If you do a safe system assessment on this, you have a bit of the luxury of being able to put those ideas out there of lower speed limits and the other stuff you're saying as well. And the project team needs to battle through those challenges of decisions of whether they're going to implement or not. Mind you, community it's fascinating, speed limit alterations, and I know some of you have been heavily involved in it. I mean, we reduced the speed limit on about 500 kilometers of this type of road from 100 to 80, and we got pushed back only on about 50 kilometers of it. And so there was one learning, is that you just do a heap and you only get some pushback. And that 50-kilometre section that got the pushback, we gave a little bit. We added a section of 100 back up where, so for some, they demanded overtaking required. And then the other section, they were still sort of grumbled for about 6 months, and then they just sort of accepted it. And there was some interesting surveying done of, what is an appropriate speed? And everybody, this was before anything was done, it was 100. And then, early on after, it was, oh no, 100's an appropriate speed and it shouldn't be 80. And then, a year down the track, what's an appropriate speed? 80 is appropriate. Like, yeah, we can lead the community rather than asking them what we think is appropriate. And they sort of come into line. It's probably what you call leadership, road safety leadership. But anyway. Yeah, a great point in there from Mark around this misconception of journey time, and that's going to significantly increase the travel time. And you can just do the simple calculations, and it's not the case. I think that's a really good point. Anyway, it's very complicated managing speed limits, and let's keep going. When we do have the higher volume roads, now this is a higher volume road. It doesn't look like it at the moment, but trust me, it is. You don't stand in the middle of the road when it's very busy. These are the ones we're going to invest the money in the infrastructure of providing those central barrier systems, and then outer barrier systems, hopefully, and getting really good safe system aligned roads to keep speeds high. And we want to attract people to use this road instead of that other road. And as we get to the intersections, we're going to try and manage those speeds within tolerable levels. I think roundabouts and compact roundabouts are going to be huge. If you've got a central barrier system, it can work really well to think about, well, okay, vehicles coming out of access points, driveways and the like, they can come down here and they can U-turn to go back that way instead of having to have a break in your barrier system, for example. And if you strategically plot out a route like this and do a proper route strategy and a corridor strategy and think about things from that sense, you can really create some pretty nicely aligned safe system environments, targeted roundabouts, and then some intersections you might be able to make left in, left out as a result of that. And potentially you still do have to have some different turn facilities at different points, but that at a very high level theoretical way is a pretty wonderful way to treat these roads. You can't get the roundabouts. There are your different options, which we've talked about some of them. I think the rural intersection activated warning signs or speed signs, or the stars, are pretty good. A lot of those in Victoria, New Zealand, Queensland starting to put a few in, which is where a speed limit on the main road as a vehicle approaches here drops down to maybe 70 from 100 or something like that. 70 is a one that's often taken. Interestingly, as to why they took 70 and not 50, we know the side impact 50. 70 is sort of calculated that it then becomes within the ability for the driver to sort of react and collide at 50. Not great. You're still relying on the driver being alert and complying with a whole lot of things, but they do seem to be very effective at very low cost. South Australia is doing some trials on it on radar bases, solar power on this solar powered sign, radar base on this really cheap stuff, which is pretty exciting. I'll do a few more and then I'll hand over to Kathy, but high volume outer suburban arterials, rural arterials, they're the ones that have been designated traffic routes, and that is a traffic route. Well, we start to really need to make sure we don't have vulnerable road users mixing on these higher speed 80-kilometre-per-hour roads, those have got to be separated facilities. We're trying to block off, these different turn maneuvers because the crash forces there are too high. We're still interested in the conflict points and slowing vehicles through the intersections because we know that they're that area of danger. This is where you look for the underpasses for pedestrians and the like, or overpasses, and separating pedestrians off, not having that access. So they're not great places to congregate, to hang out, to have a coffee and things like that. That's not their function. That's not their movement place categorization. And so we're more free to do some of those restrictive things. Major freeways, really, these operate with quite high alignment with safe system principles because they don't have right angle intersections. They don't have vulnerable road user presence, crossing and the like. You do actually get quite a lot of pedestrian trauma on motorways, which is more a result of vehicles breaking down or vehicles like taxis pulling over in the wee hours of the morning, and usually intoxicated pedestrian people getting out and throwing up or whatever they're doing, and there's incidents associated with that. So it's quite surprising how much pedestrian trauma there is on motorways. Cycling trauma there's very little, next to nothing. But it does have these really good aligned features with safe system principles. The point that they don't do well from a road safety perspective is as flow breaks down, because when it's a free flowing, it does really well, really great road safety performance. When it's absolutely congested and stuff, it doesn't have, there's not enough speed for it to cause damage in the crashes. It's as flow breaks down, but there's still the speed there. But anyway, our managed motorways are an amazing tool in this space, which is where you have lane management systems. You have on ramps with ramp metering, where you got your traffic signals to balance that flow. You can use lots of technology to block off lanes, to change speed down proactively, to warn of things, and we get lots of benefit out of this. Doing the safe system assessments on these urban motorways, it's still the same process, but you often are delving into ITS, intelligent transport systems, managed motorway stuff, electronic communications, how control centers are set up, and those sort of things, and thinking holistically around processes behind the scenes as well. And major rural highways, I'll finish on this one. We saw there that our continuous barrier systems are what gives us our high alignment with safe system principles. And we're seeing that roll out on many of the major rural highways these days, just continuous barrier systems. We know people are going to fall asleep. We know they're going to run off the road, and we need to try to manage the energy in that. We're going to try and stop them doing that with audio tactile edge line and good rest areas and all these things, but they will continue to do it, and we need to manage that. And any at-grade intersections really need to be grade separated to continue those speeds on these major urban freeways. The only way you can really operate an intersection to keep high speeds of the through vehicles and have high safe system alignment really is to have that sort of long acceleration lane out, and then enough space for them to change into the right lane, then long acceleration in the median back, enough to merge and to get back across, and then they can make their turn or go straight. And so, you've got to have the median there. Now, that's all fine. It takes up a lot of land and the like. It can be done. In some situations, it's cheaper. It's quite a cost-effective way to do things. You get you know, because you've got the speed up there, the speed differential, the difference in speed in the crashes is good. Got to think about secondary crashes and make sure you got your continuous barrier and the like. You got to merge from the right here, which is never ideal. But again, if you've got the speeds up and they've got good distance and good sight lines, they can merge in there at an angle where if an incident occurs, it's friendly and they've got the speed up. So that's a possibility if you need. I don't think we'll go into extra content, Kathy. I think that I want people to have time to really get stuck into that safe system assessment they're doing, finish the quizzes off. So how about you just show them how to finish off the course, and then I'll say final thank you at the end.
Lovely. Thank you, Ken. So just a recap. The last thing you need to do is to complete your safe system assessment. So hopefully you might have been out and done your site visit or something like that. Thanks for the people who got in touch to let us know that your site wasn't there and so on. So you need to submit that, and that's due this time next week. Basically, you've got another week. So please get in touch if you need a hand or anything like that with that one. There is one last quiz in today's module. So there it is there. And then there's also a bit of a comparison report. So road safety audit, safe system assessment, and IRAP assessment. And you can see it, you know, I guess the different attributes of each one and where you might use each one, which is just a nice one pager. Now, once you have submitted your assignment and it has been marked, so we'll look at marking them after they're due, in the week after they're due, and then you've done all your quizzes and you have achieved a pass grade, your certificate, which is currently showing as restricted at the moment, will appear here, and you'll be able to download an electronic copy of your certificate. Only after you've given us some feedback, please. So there is a very short course feedback section there. So that is the very last thing that you do need to do is provide some feedback, and then your certificate will appear. And I think that is just about it. Mm-hmm.
Good,
oh,
thanks.
and then I'll send you your prizes in the post.
Yeah, that's right. So you'll get a hard copy of the certificate and all those prizes you've won along the way. And it's always exciting to see what Kathy packs in there in the prize pack. Okay, reach out if you've got any questions with that. Remember, if you submit it and it doesn't quite meet the requirements, it's just going to be you'll get less than 80, and you'll get notes on what to improve, and then you can fix it and have it, or change it and have another go at it. And you've got some attempts, so don't get too stressed at it. Again, it's hopefully not going to be a hugely time-consuming exercise. There is some work to do, but try and knock it off and get it done. I think there's a question that might have just popped in there.
So yeah, for our report, do we include local knowledge about the location, e.g. B double route, alternate routes, compact roundabout, local jurisdiction design criteria?
Yeah, so you would certainly, well, a lot of them have been it's been put down as a particular traffic volume on your design. All right, you have to stick to that traffic volume. Even if you go, that's ridiculous, that's wrong. You got to stick to that, because that's what the marker is going to look at to check that that, okay, there's a volume there, and they've gone to the score sheet, scoring reference sheet, and they know how to do that. Okay, so that you have to use that. But if you know local aspects of it, that it's a B double route, or all the kids hang out there on a Friday night, or whatever it is, like that's all valuable intel to go into your assessment. Now, if you know that there's a specific design guidance requirement from the local government or something like that, that's kind of not that relevant, because safe system assessment aren't driven by, okay, did we comply with the the standard and did we do that? No, it's that genuine look at the energy and who's going to be involved in crashes and are there changes that could lessen that. It doesn't matter if it contravenes the particular guidance, as long as it's going to improve safety. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. And
sorry, Ken, I'll just yeah, you're getting a thumbs up there, and I'll just take you to a reminder of where some of the useful documents will be when you're completing it. So there's the Safe System Assessment Framework, and Ken mentioned the scoring
reference sheet.
Yeah, the reference sheet. So there it is there. So page 13 of that one. And don't forget, a little bit after page 13, you've got your treatments that you're recommending towards the end of your report as well. So there's some examples there for the different categories. And one more thing I will alert you to. So that's the useful bits and pieces there. If you get stuck, some of the bits that aren't, or maybe not as clear in the guidance document, there are the fact sheets. There they are, Safe System Assessment Scoring fact sheets. So if you get to a bit where you go, oh, how do I do the exposure at intersections again? There's a fact sheet for it.
Sorry. I'll go down to that road safety investigation techniques down, next one down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the comparison report.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but that's a nice one to talk about the difference between road safety audit, safe system assessments, and OSRAP, that, you know, star rating of roads and the like, and just show what the differences are there, which is helpful to some people because they've heard of these different terms, or people asking, well, why aren't we doing this one, or why are we doing that one, and those sort of questions. So that's there on our website if you want to grab it. Okay, I think we've done really well there. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their super busy schedules to get involved in this, and it's been a really good group, lots of interaction, lots of great comments, lots of thinking. So thank you for that. I think it's important that we do try to really push some of this safe system thinking into the run-of-the-mill practices. I mean, it's very easy to just come back and do what we've always done and continue to roll it out, which is, we know is got some inherent death and serious injury to our community associated with it, and we should be challenging that. And I think this is one tool for you to be able to do that. There's lots of other tools we need and lots of other change and lots of other areas, but really get out there and tell people you can assist them and you can help them and you can do these assessments, and get in contact with me if it's something weird and you go, have you got any information about this, or you ever done anything in this space, and I'll send you whatever I've got to help, or at least put you in contact with somebody, because we want to really try and get these moving along. Feel free to put your certificate on social media or whatever platforms you use there, and promote the fact that you're able to assist. More than happy for that to happen. And keep in contact. We're always keen to hear how people are going with this and whether they're finding things useful. I want to thank Kathy and her team behind the scenes organising this. They don't just magically happen. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So thank you, Kathy. You do a wonderful job as always. Like I said, did you give yourself a round of applause there?
No, that wasn't me.
I'm giving you one now. So there you go.
Thank you. Look,
everybody's getting on board. I love hearts.
Ken, speaking of weird things that you mentioned, you've once done a safe system assessment on window washers at traffic lights. Is that right? Just for weird and wonderful things. They're out there, and Ken's done them. He's done all the weird things. So it happens, and yes, do stay in touch. We love to hear about what's going on. And thank you, Ken, for your passion and enthusiasm as always, and delivering another terrific course. And we look forward to seeing everyone's final assignments.
Thanks, everybody. Get in contact if you're struggling at all, and good luck with your safe system assessments.
Bye.